Today, on the Fact Hunter channel, we will tell the stories of Nazi agents within the United States. By the end of 1940, Adolf Hitler's Secret Service had placed a sizable army of spies, saboteurs, agitators, couriers, intermediaries, partisans, sympathizers, sleeper agents, and peepers in the United States. The nerve center of Hitler's espionage operations in the United States was the German embassy on Massachusetts Avenue in Washington. In this gloomy old brick edifice, Dr. Hans Thompson, the embassy's chargé d'affaires and a fervent National Socialist, had set up the largest clandestine cave of spies that ever existed in a Third Reich diplomatic post around the world, a veritable breeding ground for intrigue. Most of the motley crowd of informants at the service of ruthless Nazi agents were native-born Americans, driven by love of New Germany, Adolf Hitler, or love of American dollars. These were more numerous. Some of them voluntarily participated in Nazi spying activities. Others were induced to cooperate by deception or blackmail. Thompson was deeply involved in the campaign to maintain American neutrality because his boss, the ambitious foreign minister Joachim von Ribbentrop, was directing, on Hitler's orders, a pacification operation, at least until the Führer brought England to its knees. Ribbentrop's essential strategy was to conduct intensified anti-war propaganda in the United States and to keep saboteurs from acts of violence that could awaken the sleeping giant and drag it into a real war. Thompson, an energetic and resourceful man, was making great strides toward his intended goal of maintaining American neutrality. The cunning chargé d'affaires secretly paid U.S. newspaper correspondents and promised each a monthly bonus of $350 for publishing proper articles in daily newspapers and magazines. Since the United States remained neutral, many reporters believed there was nothing wrong with exhorting the country to stay out of the European war. As soon as a coveted article appeared in print and reached the gullible public, Thompson produced thousands of prints and sent them to all American publishers and editors. Given the rising tide of anti-war sentiment in the United States, Thompson was greatly agitated when rumors circulating among Nazis that saboteurs were about to infiltrate this country reached him. On January 25, 1941, Thompson sent a telegram to Ribbentrop. If any attempt is made in the near future to carry out sabotage operations in the United States, it will have disastrous consequences for our plans. 4 weeks later, on February 20th, a burly man entered the German embassy. He introduced himself as Walter von Hausberger and announced that the Abwehr had sent him to the United States to carry out large-scale sabotage. Along with him came a self-proclaimed sabotage expert named Julius Georg Bergmann. "We have come to blow up America," they declared boisterously. Now, Dr. Thompson was horrified that he had to give shelter to a pair of ready-for-anything losers who could thwart a grand Nazi plan calculated to keep the United States neutral. He deputized to Berlin, protesting the presence of the two saboteurs at the embassy. Soon came a reply from the Foreign Ministry. The Abwehr was consulted, which confirmed that the two men had been sent to the United States, but only as observers. Hausberger and Bergmann were given explicit orders not to undertake any action, even remotely resembling sabotage. In fact, the two saboteurs had arrived in the United States a year earlier and had already developed an extensive plan to carry out a whole series of violent acts against the country. With the help of local informants, they drew up a list of targets, a detailed inventory including power plants, factories, railroads, waterworks, telephone exchanges, government buildings, and military facilities. Nazi agents in the United States also obtained descriptions and maps of all major cities, asking at gas stations for free plans. One ambitious spy obtained sketches of New York's sewer system. Another procured maps of strategic points in the U.S. rail network, such as Horseshoe Pass near Altoona, Pennsylvania, and the Hell Gate Bridge over the Harlem River in New York. Still another provided plans and diagrams of sewage treatment plants and water reservoirs in Los Angeles. The reports made for diversionary purposes were varied and often highly imaginative. An enterprising Nazi agent suggested that saboteurs get to the United States by air. On an accompanying map, he marked more than 50 golf courses on Long Island, suitable for use as airstrips. Walter von Hausberger, who was by no means a harmless observer, had been planning acts of sabotage for a long time and with great zeal. Upon his arrival in the United States in early 1939, he recruited associates at the Packard, Ford, Chrysler, and Hudson automobile plants in Detroit, the Harrison gas plant in New Jersey, a New York water meter factory, and 4 Brewster aircraft plants. Julius Bergmann, another observer, whom the nervous Dr. Thompson had come to harbor, was also an experienced professional in espionage and sabotage. He operated, of course, under an assumed name. His real name was Georg Busch. At one time he published a music magazine, and in early 1933 he became a fanatical supporter of Adolf Hitler. Busch also arrived in the United States in January 1939. He soon rented a small house in the suburbs of New York City and began collecting explosives, detonators, and fuses. He intended to blow up ships in New York Harbor. With the help of 2 American muggers he recruited, the agent carried out several reconnaissance operations at the waterfront, where many ships were docked. Busch was amazed by the lack of any security measures. For more than an hour, the 3 men strolled back and forth through the port. They did not encounter a single policeman or other law enforcement official during that time. Looking for places to plant bombs, the 3 saboteurs boarded the ships Effingham and Independence Hall. They spent more than 30 minutes circling the big freighters, unstopped by anyone. Excited by the incredible possibilities of sabotage in New York Harbor, Busch exultantly informed Abwehr controllers in Hamburg that he could easily blow up at least 10 ships. All he needed was money to recruit helpers and cover other expenses. The money, however, did not come. Fearing that acts of sabotage in New York Harbor might prompt American public opinion and Congress to become actively involved in the war in Europe, Joachim von Ribbentrop went directly to Hitler. The Führer immediately ordered, at least for the time being, to cut off the flow of all funding to saboteurs in the United States. Thus, Dr. Thompson continued to succeed in his slick anti-war campaign, while Walter von Hausberger and Georg Busch, aka Julius Bergman, were gathering explosives and waiting for the signal to launch a widespread sabotage campaign. Events occurred in the United States that thwarted their plans. In early September 1939, a few days after Adolf Hitler's mighty war machine invaded Poland, President Roosevelt instructed J. Edgar Hoover's FBI to take charge of all investigations into espionage, sabotage, and subversive activities. Overnight, the spy paradise that had previously been the United States ceased to exist. As if by magic, hundreds of Nazi agents began to seek a safe haven for themselves. Not all of them succeeded. Among those captured by Hoover's agents were Hausberger and Busch. At the time, espionage and other such acts were not considered serious crimes in the United States. Hausberger and Busch were therefore released on relatively low bail, paid secretly by the Abwehr, to await trials. As the trial date approached, the 2 Nazi agents disappeared and were never seen in the United States again.